Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 17 of the Associated Wrestling Press's Second Caution, presented by WrestlingAddicts.com. And if you haven't been to WrestlingAddicts.com, I always tell people, why walk on water when you can dance on it? If you're going to deal with a wrestling apparel company, why not deal with the best wrestling apparel company that the sport has to offer? They have the most creative designers. They have the best customer service. I'm not asking you. Well, let me rephrase that. I'm not telling you, I'm asking you. Please go to WrestlingAddicts.com. That's WrestlingAddicts.com and check out what they have to offer. That's WrestlingAddicts.com. I guess first thing I should do is introduce myself. I'm ESPN and Big Ten Network wrestling analyst Eric Olenowski, and today we have 2015 NCAA All-American from the University of Missouri, Lavion Mays. Lavion, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
And sitting next to you is our friend Tim Miklas, introduced as the brother of Willie Miklas. So welcome to the show, Tim, as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So am I pronouncing it correct, Lavion?
Yeah, I don't know what my parents were thinking whenever they put the I in there, but I mean, it's different, so I like it. It's Levon, the I is silent, so
All
don't
right.
forget it.
No, I won't. I've seen you double people. So before we get into your individual success that you've accomplished this year, I want to start out by talking about the team because, as we were just talking about, my brother wrestled for the University of Missouri back in 2005 through whenever. And I've seen the program continue to grow, and you guys, this class right here has been the accumulation of all the years that Brian Smith has put into this program. You guys go undefeated. You win the national duels. You can't really call this a team because you can see that you guys are a family. You guys really stuck together this year. What was it like wrestling throughout the season, just seeing what you guys were accomplishing?
It was like a great feeling. Out of my 3 years of being here, this right here has definitely been the closest team that I've seen. And especially like going and looking forward to next year, being one of like the guys who got to step up and lead the team next year. That's one of the things that I'm definitely looking forward to keeping is just that kind of bond. Me and Willie were talking about it even earlier today. We were talking about it like at nationals, how like heartbreaking it was to watch guys lose, and even I like right before the blood round. Whenever I saw Allen drop that match to Tomasello, it went in my mind like we're not going to win as a team. I need to I don't have to make weight tomorrow. It's all like I'm not going to help. It's like if I just lose right now, and Smith and Joe came up to me right after he lost and gave me a good smack in the face, like get that out your mind. I was like, how'd you guys know it was in my mind? Like you guys are mind readers over here. But they put it out there. It's like, hey, you got to help the team. You got to come back. You got to wrestle the siege. You got to get third. And, at that point, it was like, yeah, you're right. I got to do this for the team. So, whenever every individual's goals are leaning towards the team goals, that's whenever you get really big things like we've done at Missouri.
And as I mentioned, you guys go undefeated. You have crazy duels. You guys, Ohio State, I mean, just endless duels at Iowa. You guys knock off the top teams week in and week out. You guys always came in. It was always Missouri's wrestling whoever. Whoever has a better lineup, Missouri's not going to be able to. Somewhere they're going to fall off. You guys never fell off the entire season. Do you have a signature moment that really stood out to you that you guys can come together 10 years from now and say, do you remember this? And everybody as a team will remember that moment.
Beating Iowa at the national duels is really great. I just had a great weekend in Carver Hawkeye. I make the joke to Coach Joe since he was a former Hawkeye himself. I was like, I wrestled so well there. Maybe I should have been an Iowa Hawkeye. Just mess with him. But that match was great. Just the way Allen went out there to fight off from the start, and then the crowd was fired up. I love the Iowa fans. They're one of my favorite fans in the nation behind ours. And after our 33-pound match, the Iowa fans, they were getting pumped back up. And then my match with Jeva, I was glad that I was able to take a little bit of like wind from their sails at that point because after that, the Iowa crowd was just sitting there, just like hushed down a little bit, and then Drake came in and just kind of like swept it under, and then LaValle kind of sealed the deal. And I felt like we did a good job taking the Iowa fans out the game at that point. And I think as a team, that's definitely going to be a moment that like we all remember how we were able to go into the Carver Hawkeye and kind of like quiet down the crowd a bit.
Oh yeah, I was watching on TV, and that was, I mean, it's those fans are the most passionate fans in the world. For I was gonna say in any sport, but there's some crazy fans out there. But you guys definitely took the air out of the balloon. Let's get into your regular season. So you win the scuffle, just absolute dominate the entire season. Then you are the favorite to win the MAC. You guys come out of the Big 12 a couple of years ago, so you're in the MAC. You get knocked off in the semifinals. Did you question yourself after the loss in the MACs? Just did it hurt your seed? Is that what was going through your mind before NCAA's?
Um, yeah. um, I thought about the seed. I was sitting there thinking if they would have seeded like they did previous years, I might have ended up like the number 8 seed and would have had seen Stever in the quarters. And that was definitely like it went through my mind. Immediately right after the match, though, that was like the last thing that I was thinking. And immediately after the match, I was like, okay, I couldn't get to the legs. I didn't break through his defense. McCarty had a really good game plan, and he was an All-American, plays sixth. So he had a really great season too, especially towards the end. And he's a good wrestler. So I wasn't like beating myself too bad. But I wanted to be a national champ, and I wanted to win last year. And that match right there showed me that I have the stuff to do it, but they're going to be where I can't execute my best things. So I really got to work on my top game, and I got to work on being able to snap people down and finding different ways to attack angles. So immediately after that, went back into competition the next day. Ended up taking third. Went on those next 2 weeks, and I trained. I trained to be a national champ the next 2 weeks. I worked on my snaps. I worked on my angles. Worked a little bit on top, and it had good results. I still ended up dropping a match to Heil, who's also a really good wrestler. But John Smith's a really good coach. He got his guy prepared for the match, and I wasn't as prepared for the match, and he came out the winner. Ended up taking fourth. So I mean, I didn't lose to a slouch at all. So he came prepared too.
Right. So you win your first match.
Looking forward.
Sorry about that. Go ahead.
No, that's fine.
So I was just going to say, you win your first match, and you touched on losing to Dean Heil. That puts you back into the consies. And did you at any point look at the consolation bracket and see who you could potentially have?
Not really. Last year when I was in the backside, my first year competing, guys break on the backside, and it doesn't matter who you're wrestling on the backside, because you might get somebody who's thinking the wrong thing at that point, and you just got to go out there and wrestle, because you might end up getting a pin, you might end up getting a major. You don't know what's going to happen on the backside. So I really didn't care too much about who was in front of me at that point. At that point, I was just like, well, you got to keep wrestling at this point.
Right, and for those of you who don't know, the hammers that he had, it was you were wrestling Rodriguez. The winner of your match in Rodriguez would wrestle the winner of Josh Jeva, who was the Big Ten runner-up, and Chris Dardanes of Minnesota. So that was on a 5 and a 6 seed wrestling in the third round of the consies. So you end up wrestling Josh Jeva. You already wrestled him at the national duels. How did it feel to once again hush those Iowa fans up?
It felt good. I thought he was gonna wrestle real defensively at that point, but he did the same thing he did at Iowa. He was opening up. He was looking for his attacks, and that was one of my favorite matches of that tournament. Besides my match with Carter, but he went out there to score. He went out there to win. He tried things, and that's kind of wrestling I like to see. I like to be able to move around with a guy, find openings, and I know he didn't finish off his season the way he wanted to, but he was a great competitor, and I enjoyed wrestling him both times this year.
So then your next matchup, which was, I've had an opportunity to cover a lot of the Big Ten duels for the Big Ten Network, and one individual that I was really impressed with throughout the year was Anthony Abdeen of Nebraska. Just he gets ready for every match like it's going to be the Olympic finals, and I was expecting him to do great this, and he runs into you, and I'll tell you what, you demolished. It was an absolute your shots, when you get to your shots, you're unstoppable. And it's tough to say against Anthony Abdeen. Nobody has done that this season, and you were able to pick him apart. What was it about that match? Did you know something before going into that match that you had to do in order to be successful, or was because that was the match, the blood round, in order to All-American? Was that what lit the fire underneath you?
No, not really. Coach Smith had to remind me that just last year, my first year being at 41, first tournament, I actually wrestled Aberdeen at like the South Dakota Open, the Bison Open, or something like that. One of those things, and he tech faulted me in like the second period or something like that. First year being at
Wow.
41, tech falls me. Within 2 years, I major him. And Coach Smith had to remind me, like, hey, you got tech fault by this guy last year. It's all like, let's see how much better you've really gotten. And I went out there to show him that, hey, you may have wrestled me last year and you were able to do all that, but I get better every single day, and I just wanted to prove it out there on the mat.
And you definitely did. I mean, just a tremendous job. So that solidifies the All-American spot for you. You mentioned one of your favorite matches was wrestling Devin Carter. You end up losing to Devin Carter, but you end up getting seventh place at the NCAA championships. How did that feel to know that all this hard work year in and year out, you said it, you've continued to get better? I mean, how did it feel to finally know that you were an All-American and seventh place was locked up?
I mean, you don't really feel like an All-American until like you step on the podium and you get the award. So it didn't really hit me at like any point in time until like I stepped on the podium, and at that point it was more heartbreaking than anything. Being so low on the podium, it it hurts, and I've talked to like some of the other guys on the team about it, and I've talked to the coaches about how bad that actually hurts, and not being able to like actually like reach your potential, not peaking for NCAA's, or at least how like I felt like how I felt, and I should have done better. I didn't. At the beginning of the year, I told Smith no less than seventh, and he was sitting there looking at me like, what does that mean? I was like, well, from the way that I've been progressing, I feel like if I take anything under seventh place, that means I don't improve at the rate that I needed to. And I came out with seventh, so my progression is there. And next year, whenever me and Smith are sitting there talking about it, I'll tell him no less than first.
That's what I like to hear. Constant progression, and it's a thing of it's so good to watch you wrestle, because wrestling is changing. They're trying to change it to an offensive sport, and watching you wrestle, it's constant motion. And what I say on my broadcast is, what I like to watch with you is you constantly move your feet forward. There's two wrestlers, there's one wrestler backing up, and then there's you constantly moving forward. And the type of wrestlers that we need are you in our sport to continue to grow the sport. So continue to get better and continue to do what you're doing. Where can our followers, actually, before we get to that, one last question I want to leave you with. Are you planning on staying at 41 next year?
That's I don't want to like reveal information or anything, but I
And you don't
mean,
have to. Please don't feel like you have to.
I won't make 41 for like the next like 2 months probably. But
Okay.
I mean, just as far as it goes, I'm thinking about it. It's definitely one of like my top concerns over the summer is weight control and weight management. I didn't do a terrible job with it last year, but always improving. So that's one of the things that I can definitely improve on.
Okay. Well, where can our followers, your followers, fans, viewers of the show, where can they follow you on social media?
Levon Mays on Facebook, I guess. I don't change that. At Levon Javier on Twitter. I think that's my Twitter handle. Yeah. So the at sign LavionJavier, and I really don't tweet too much, but I post fun pictures every now and then, so you might get a
Okay.
chuckle every now and then.
Awesome. And Tim, where can our followers follow you?
They can follow me on Twitter at Tiptoe Tim, TIPTOETIM.
What a great Twitter handle. All right, so for everybody here at the Associated Wrestling Press, first off, we want to thank Wrestling Addicts for presenting this show to you. Like I said before, if you're going to deal with somebody in the wrestling apparel company, why not deal with the best? I always like to tell people, if you're going to walk on water, why not dance on it? Make sure you go to WrestlingAddicts.com. That's WrestlingAddix.com. And check out what they have to offer. They have shorts, they have bags, shirts, singlets, you name it, they have it. For everybody here at the Associated Wrestling Press, for Levon Mays, for Tiptoe Tim, I've been Eric Olenowski. Thank you guys for watching.
Thanks for having us.